My boyfriend and I have been together for a year and 8 months. He's 28, almost 29, and I'm 20. He's my first boyfriend and I'm his first girlfriend. In May, he lost his job and started living with me and my dad. He never asked or talked to me or my dad before he started coming over every day and staying the night for almost a month. The situation became uncomfortable since I study and work, so I offered to pay his rent to move out. I paid for everything, from the deposit to the fees, and even took care of his food and supplies in the new apartment. I never expected anything in return. I just wanted to support him in a difficult time. However, he never looked for a job because he doesn't want to depend on a boss or have a low salary. Recently, he invited me to lunch after university, and when I asked if he could pick me up because the bus route is very long, he said, "Maybe one day you will understand the sacrifice I make to come to the city center at this hour," referring to the traffic. This bothered me because I've never thrown in his face everything I have done for him, but I let it slide. Yesterday, he came to my house at 7 a.m. after a party and accidentally knocked over a glass on my nightstand. He looked at it and said, "I'll clean it tomorrow," and went to sleep. He woke up at 3 p.m. saying he was hungry, and I told him there was stuff for sandwiches in the fridge. He went downstairs, saw my dad and his girlfriend eating that, didn't greet them, and just went back upstairs to lie in bed again, facing the wall and sulking. When I went to the bathroom, I found that he had left it filthy. Later, he picked up the larger glass shards from the floor, but left them on my desk instead of throwing them away. I asked if he was going to sweep up the glass splinters, and he replied in a bad tone that I should bring him a broom instead of blaming him for the glass. When I asked him to throw away the pieces from my desk, he said he needed a box to do that. I ended up throwing away the glass myself and got a piece stuck in my foot and another in my hand. Then he ordered delivery, left the delivery bag on the floor along with the glass, and went back to sleep. I had an exam the next day and wanted to study, which he knew. He slept until 7 p.m. I was upset and restless, didn't say anything, but my mood was obvious. He got mad at me for being in a bad mood, so he got up, swept up the glass, left the broom and dustpan in my room, and left. I know I'm generous by nature. His birthday is in a week, and I was preparing the recipe for his cakes and the gifts I was going to give him. He asked me if I was going to get him a PlayStation 5. Not sure if he was joking, but he asked several times. He also asked me for money to buy the food for the barbecue on his birthday. After he left my house, I texted him asking if he was okay, and he said yes. I told him I felt like things were left unresolved and that I was sad, and he just replied that everything was fine. I haven't talked to him since. I'm worried that without me, he will have no financial support, and I feel bad about leaving him right before his birthday. But I also feel like a sugar daddy who never gets anything in return, not even a simple thank you or the kindness to avoid me stepping on glass. What's the best approach to making it clear that our relationship needs to become more balanced or it can't continue? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If you need to question whether your boyfriend takes advantage of you, the answer is most likely yes. If he is really acting like that, throw that piece of work out and never look back. He does not have a job, didn't ask for help, and just expected your dad and you to help him. He doesn't care to take at least his part in the household and do his tasks, brings you extra work instead of supporting you, and is manipulative since he gets in a bad mood because you have a bad mood. Like your emotions are worth less than his. They are equally valid, if not more valid, in that scenario. Throw him out, focus on your studies, and find a better boyfriend. A decent boyfriend does his tasks in the household, helps you through bad times, would, for example, cook for you when you are stressed out from exams, would not take you for granted, communicate better, respect you and your family, and so on. I would not even say that anything from what I just listed would make him a good boyfriend. That is just the bare minimum. If that would be all that I could get from the dating pool, I would rather stay single and live stress-free. Run. Comment 2. So a 26-year-old grown man started pursuing a relationship with you when you were freshly 18 years old. You may not understand right now, but when you're 26, you're going to realize just how gross and weird that is. Honestly, that's bad enough on its own, but let's get into the rest. This loser is completely mooching off of you and being extremely disrespectful to both you and your family. I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, but your standards are not high enough and you should re-examine them. No job, doesn't even clean up after himself, essentially moved in without ever asking or having a conversation, then was able to get you to pay his rent so he would move out. I don't know you, but I know you deserve better. Now for the update. I'm going to give you an update on the situation with my boyfriend, and this like a whole mess I can't look away from. So a week after I posted last, it was my boyfriend's birthday, and I decided to try and do something nice for him, even though I was still kinda mad about everything else. I planned a small celebration at my apartment and invited only my close family since they knew how messy everything was between us. My dad offered to help with the decorations, which I thought was really sweet. He even encouraged me to make it special because he knows how much I care about this loser, unfortunately, and how much I wanted things to work between us. I bought a cake and got him some thoughtful gifts, hoping that maybe this would improve our connection. I didn't want to break up with him, not yet. I just wanted him to try harder and do better. So the day of the party, I set everything up early in the morning. I was super excited, like I thought maybe this would make him realize how much I care. He didn't wake up in my apartment because he was still sleeping on my dad's couch, so I guess he didn't see the decorations I put up. But honestly, he probably wouldn't have cared anyway. He showed up late, smelling like alcohol and looking all disheveled. He barely acknowledged the decorations and gifts, just muttering something about how he didn't want to party. I mean, really? I bust my butt to make this happen, and you can't even pretend to be happy? During the celebration, he spent most of the time just scrolling through social media on his phone. My younger sister tried to engage him in conversation, but he brushed her off. My dad made a casual comment about how it's time for the boyfriend to contribute around the house, and he snapped back. Like, seriously? My dad was just saying what needed to be said. I was so embarrassed in front of my family, I just wanted to disappear already. So after the cake was served, he criticized the flavor, saying it's not what he wanted. Dude, you didn't even know what you wanted because you didn't tell me. Later that night, he found an old video of us together and started laughing at a moment that annoyed the hell out of me. I told him he was being distant and he just dismissed my concerns like they were nothing. Finally, I confronted him about his lack of effort and he accused me of being controlling. He even brought up how much I spent on his apartment like it was some kind of favor. I reminded him that it was a gesture of support and not a debt, but he didn't want to hear it. He stormed out, saying he needed space. I was left alone with my family, feeling like a complete idiot. A few days later, I ran into him at the grocery store and he was shopping with another woman. My heart sank watching them laugh together. I approached them and greeted him, but the woman looked surprised. He introduced her as a friend from the gym, but I felt like I was going to throw up. She mentioned how they'd been working out together, and her tone was way too familiar for my liking. He quickly changed the subject, and I noticed he was uncomfortable. I returned home and started preparing to confront him about our future. Before I could call him, he texted me, asking to meet up. So I agreed to meet, determined to talk about our problems and set some boundaries. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend and I have had a good relationship before this, with no major issues. The problems arose when he lost his job. I didn't know the woman from the grocery store, but it seemed like he was hiding something, which made me more determined to discuss our relationship. My family is supportive, but they don't interfere in my personal life. I really wanted to work things out with him before seeing him with someone else. Am I the idiot for scheduling a fertility appointment behind my husband's back? My husband, who is 27 years old, and I, who am also 27 years old, just celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary, along with our 12-year dating anniversary this December. We are high school sweethearts, and I love him with all my heart. That being said, I turn 28 next month, and the topic of whether or not we want to try for kids has been on my mind much of late. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and tend to hyperfixate on topics until I feel a question has been answered or a resolution has been found. My husband is a very smart, logical, and non-emotional person, to the point that I've often wondered if he isn't on the spectrum somewhat. We both have great jobs, our own house, and many hobbies that we enjoy, including cars, motorcycles, hiking, backpacking, and traveling, all of which are not inexpensive. Whenever I've brought up kids in the past, his answer has been that he doesn't want kids now. But when I clarify if he'd be disappointed in the future if we never had kids, his answer is that he thinks he would be disappointed. So, I've tried to bring up the conversation a couple of times now that we've been married for a year, and he always seems to shut down or avoid deeper thinking into the logistics of kids outside of the negatives. He seems to have the idea that kids are going to triple our expenses, with his only deeper argument being that childcare is outrageously expensive. I've pointed out that we have our parents very close by, 3 of whom are retired, and would most likely jump at the chance to even watch them part-time while we work. Then he says we wouldn't be able to do anything we want. I pointed out that we could still do many of those things. It would just look a little different and would require more time and preparation for the most part. We've also talked about how that could impact our plan to move into a bigger house one day. But in reality, the market just isn't good at the moment to buy, and that's really the bigger factor limiting us. So do I just need to give him time to process this more and revisit the topic later? Or what is the best way to have this conversation with my very hyper-logical and low-emotionally driven husband? It wouldn't be the end of the world if we decide against it, but I just feel this pressure that we need to make a decision soon before we turn 30. I really don't want to be childbearing past my mid-30s male, as the risks and recovery increase with age, and I don't want to be in my 60s before our kids are really taking off in life. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. As a self-described hyperlogical person myself, all his reasons sound very valid and are all reasons I have decided to remain child-free. Life does change with kids. You shouldn't ever depend on others to help you out, and there's always a chance a child could be born with disabilities that could definitely triple or more expenses. I don't think he has any problem in this area with deeper thought. He has definitely thought about this deeply, and he knows his answer. I do agree, however, it is not fair he is not giving it to you straight. He is only delaying the inevitable because you can't negotiate on kids. It's either a 100% yes for both partners or it's a no. Comment 2. He doesn't want kids right now. You do want kids right now. It's on you to figure out if that bothers you enough to end the relationship, or if you want to wait until he's ready. You both are only 27. He probably just wants to live a little bit more with the freedom of choice without having a child dictate everything that happens, because that is what parenthood is. The child will always come first before anything, and it will cause you both to not be able to do a lot of things. It's not going to just look a little different. It's going to be very different. A child is a complete lifestyle changer. It's not something to take lightly. Now, for the update. 3 days after the last conversation, I was at home, scrolling through social media. Just your average day, you know? And then I saw a post from my husband's high school friend celebrating the birth of their child. I was happy for them, but it also hit me hard. Like, here I am, a year into marriage and still no baby. I know it's not a race, but the baby fever is real. So I decided to bring up the topic again during dinner. Figured, maybe this time would be different. My husband came home looking super stressed. He mentioned he's feeling overwhelmed with work and just didn't want to talk about it. So dinner was pretty quiet, like really quiet. We didn't even argue about the dishes. A few days later, we went to a family gathering for my dad's birthday, where my parents asked about their plans for kids in front of everyone. That was awkward. My husband just laughed it off, saying they were focusing on their careers right now. Classic. After dinner, I overheard him joking with my brother about traveling without kids. I don't know, it just kind of hurt. Later that night, we returned home, and I tried to talk about it again. Nope. He shut down the conversation, saying it wasn't the right time. Ugh, I just felt so stuck. So I started researching parenting forums and reading articles on starting a family, YouTube videos, TikToks, anything I could find. One evening, I found a post about how to communicate effectively with partners about kids. It was like a light bulb went off. So I invited my husband to a local food festival over the weekend, hoping for a relaxed atmosphere. During the festival, we ran into another couple with a baby in a stroller. His face was priceless. He seemed taken aback, but made a lighthearted comment about parenting. I could tell he was nervous, but we had a good time. A few days later, I received a text from my sister about a surprise dinner for our parents. You know, the kind where everyone pretends they didn't just have steak for lunch? At the dinner, my brother announced they were expecting another child. Like, seriously? After dinner, my husband pulled me aside and admitted he felt pressure about kids. I get it, but come on. I suggested we see a fertility specialist just to explore our options. He didn't say much. A week later, I scheduled an appointment with the specialist without telling him. I know, sneaky, right? At the appointment, I learned more about fertility options and timelines. It was so informative, and I felt a bit more in control. Then, 3 days later, I found out my husband had been talking to his sister about their future. He mentioned wanting to travel and experience life before settling down with kids. I mean, we could have done all that together. During dinner that night, I laid out my plans and timelines for kids, emphasizing my urgency. The conversation escalated, and he stormed out of the room, frustrated. Like, "Where you going, buddy?" The next day, I received a call from his sister, who shared a concerning detail. She mentioned her brother had an idea of moving to another state for a job. A few days later, I unexpectedly packed a bag and visited my parents for the weekend. I needed to talk to someone. I shared everything that was happening with my husband and our discussions. It was nice just to vent and feel heard. I returned home after the weekend, feeling different and stronger. Something clicked. I set up a meeting with my husband to discuss our future, knowing I wanted clarity. He sat down, looking worried. I revealed my decision to pursue my goals regardless of his choices. It was like I finally saw things clearly. Edit. After the meeting, my husband realized he wanted to start a family together. We're now on the same page and excited. Am I the idiot for dumping my boyfriend when he tried to make me choose between him and my career? My 28-year-old boyfriend, who is 29 years old, plans to move back to his home country in Europe. We met in the UK and have been dating for 8 months and both love and care deeply for each other. We met through online dating. We both live about 40 minutes away from each other, as I currently live at home and he doesn't. He wants to go back to Europe next year, as he's not very happy in the UK job-wise and sees his close friends who came to the UK with him 3 years ago leave one by one to work in other countries. He also has a well-paying job within the information technology sector. We are both open to having honest conversations, so this was a topic that came up early on, and we both agreed at the time to see how the first few months together work out. I have told him I am willing to do a long-distance relationship and understand how it will be difficult. He has told me that he's not keen on it, but maybe his thoughts will change later. I am currently working on moving up in my career within the National Health Service after a career change due to infection 19. I can always go back to my previous career as a freelancer, but it will obviously take a lot of work to update my work portfolio. So we spoke about him moving abroad again in the last few weeks, and he's becoming more certain that this is something he would want to do. He mentions I can move with him and asks if my job allows me to do remote working, which it does not. I told him that I will have a better idea of what I want to do closer to the time, but if I was serious about it now, I would want to complete a certification that I need in my current job, as this can transfer anywhere, which will take a few months to finish and is very intense and create a portfolio good enough to support freelancing outside the UK. But realistically, this would mean he'll need to either wait for me or move ahead, and we do a long-distance relationship and see how that goes, as I will need to sort my career and family responsibilities, etc. I don't want to stop him from what he wants to do, and I want him to be happy. He responds, "If you can't move, we'll just go our separate ways. I don't want to put you through all the trouble and you'll be able to find another man. I don't think I can do a long-distance relationship, as I would also need physical intimacy, and my previous long-distance relationship of 3 months didn't work out." This has obviously hurt my feelings and upset me, as I didn't realize he could just suggest breaking up so easily. I walked away from the conversation shortly after, but we've avoided the topic for a few days, as I wanted to process it. So I just really want some advice on how to proceed with the conversation and whether to break up with him so I don't waste my time and can move on. Now for an update. Thank you everyone for the input. It's been a long few days processing, and after speaking to friends, family, and here, it has put my thoughts into perspective. I have to put myself first and foremost. It's clear that we have different priorities right now, and I'll just be setting myself up for more hurt if I stay, and it doesn't work out closer to the time. So, I'll talk to him soon. Now for another update. I have talked to him. It was a very long and difficult discussion. I'm going to keep it brief. We have decided to part ways as friends. Boundaries have been discussed to avoid further hurt. Again, thank you everyone for your input. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Don't rush to break up just yet. Long distance can work if you're both committed. Have an honest chat about expectations, visit plans, and a potential end date to the separation. If you're both on the same page and willing to put in the effort, give it a shot. But if your goals seriously clash, it might be time to reconsider. Remember, it's not just about distance, it's about where you both see your futures. Comment 2. He responds, "If you can't move, we'll just go our separate ways. I don't want to put you through all the trouble, and you'll be able to find another man. I don't think I can do long-distance relationships, as I would also need physical intimacy, and my previous long-distance relationship of 3 months didn't work out. You have 2 options, move and be with him, or not move and break up." Now for the update. I recently posted about how I broke up with my boyfriend because he wanted me to move with him to Europe, and I couldn't. Well, a lot has happened since then, and it's so good to share that with you all. A week after the breakup, I had a work conference in London. I was looking forward to the event to network and build my freelancing portfolio. I was also excited about getting away from the reminders of my ex. At the conference, I ran into an old colleague of mine, Mark, who I hadn't seen in a while. He was pretty good looking. We talked about our time working together and caught up on where we were in our careers. Turns out, Mark has been working on some cool projects and even offered to connect me with a potential client. I was super grateful for the opportunity. We exchanged contact info, and I was really happy. A few days later, I got a text from Mark about a networking event happening the next weekend. I decided to go, feeling excited about the potential new connections and opportunities. At the event, I met several industry professionals and managed to impress them with my ideas. It was a huge confidence boost. At the end of the night, Mark suggested we grab dinner to celebrate my success at the event. So we went to this well-known Italian restaurant, and honestly, the conversation just flowed. It was so easy and natural. When we left, Mark walked me to my car and leaned in for a kiss. I was surprised. I mean, it had only been a few weeks since my breakup. I politely declined, letting him know that I just got out of a relationship and I wasn't ready for anything new. He was really cool about it, though. He respected my boundaries and promised to keep things professional. I was relieved because I knew I was not ready for anything serious just yet. I thought that was the end of it. But then I started hearing from friends that my ex had been posting photos from a vacation in Europe with a new girl. Great. Like, I needed to see that. A week later, I saw my ex tagged in a group photo at a popular tourist spot with the new girl. That was a punch to the gut. That night, my mom called to chat, which was great because I needed to talk to her about anything but my ex. But then she brought up his new girlfriend and how happy they looked together. I mean, how do you even respond to that? I decided to share my recent networking success with her to shift the focus away from him. My mom, wanting to support me, offered to take me out for a celebratory dinner next weekend. I really appreciated that. At the dinner, we discussed my career aspirations and plans for the future. I didn't want to think about my ex and where he was at that moment. The following week, Mark texted me about a new project and asked if I would like to collaborate. We started working together, and I found myself really enjoying the creative process. One evening, while working late at Mark's office, we opened a bottle of wine and laughed about our past work experiences. He leaned in again, and this time, I kissed him back. There was something about it that just felt right. So our working relationship quickly turned into a casual dating situation, and both of us were comfortable with that. A month passed. I was thriving in my career, feeling great about my decisions, and really enjoying my time with Mark. Then I got a phone call from a mutual friend who spilled some gossip about my ex. Apparently, he was telling people that he never loved me and that he felt rushed into the relationship. I was so shocked and hurt. I was genuinely upset and didn't understand why he felt the need to say those things. I decided to post a photo on social media celebrating a huge milestone in my freelancing career, tagging Mark. The post got a lot of positive feedback, and my ex started commenting on it, trying to re-engage. I ignored his messages and focused on my growing relationship with Mark. A few nights later, I went to a dinner party hosted by a friend. Guess who showed up? My ex. During the dinner, he tried to act casual, but kept glancing at me and Mark. I made sure to share stories with Mark, including inside jokes that only we understood. I could see my ex getting visibly irritated. At the end of the night, as everyone was leaving, my ex approached me. He tried to make small talk, but I responded shortly, making it clear that I had moved on. The evening ended with me leaving the party with Mark. It was a good feeling. Edit. It's been a month since my last update. Mark and I are now officially a couple. He's met my friends and family, and everyone loves him. My career is thriving. My ex has stopped trying to reach out. I haven't heard from him since that dinner party. I feel at peace and happy. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.